to another Random Sam Epic Mom. Okay, so I was going to do a reactionary video, but I didn't want to just choose one and kind of make fun of people, because it's way too easy. But I have been watching over the past, few days, week, a ton of people whining about how, Gen X, boomers, everybody, all these Gen Zers saying how we had it so much easier because we could have a 9-to-5 job, just entry level, and we could afford a place to live and living expenses on that job. And they can't do it now. And I want to be perfectly honest, because I'm a mom, and okay, guys, I can't be politically correct. I just can't do it. You're all full of shit. We didn't have it easy. My first apartment, I was able to afford because I had my first apartment with my now husband, who was my fiance at the time. I went from living at home to living with somebody. We lived in a small town area, which is why we could afford it. We had 2 incomes, and part of that income was paid due to military housing. That's how we could afford it. My kid, this is the truth. Now and then, you had to have, if you were renting, first, last, and security deposit for when you were renting. End of discussion. And that is a new apartment. So if you were deciding that you needed to go somewhere else, you still needed that first, last, and security deposit. If you were deciding that you wanted to buy a place, you usually needed a down payment. I happen to live in a little mountain town. My son wants to stay in our little mountain town. Real estate prices are out of control. Right now, my son was looking at it, and he found a little 1-bedroom, 1-bath. And the mortgage price is probably going to be the same as a rental price. He might be able to swing it. We might help him with a down payment, if we can afford it. The point is this, is that the majority of people getting out on their own could not afford a place to live. It just was not feasible. But nobody wanted to still be living at home in their parents' basement. Nobody wanted to be living at home answering their parents' questions, saying, where are you going? What are you doing? What do you mean you're doing this? Are you sure it's okay for you to be doing that? When are you getting home? Nobody wanted to answer those questions. They wanted to be independent. So a lot of places would have like a house, and people would have multiple people renting that house. That's why there are things like roommates. That's why a lot of friends would get together, and you'd have a tight core group of friends who you all would go in together, and you'd rent a place together. And your friendships would either survive that, or you would not be friends after that first 6 months. That's just the way it worked. And as far as the people who keep bitching about, oh my God, you all could do that. No, we couldn't. You want to know why we had entry-level jobs? Entry-level jobs were things like McDonald's, Subway, Burger King, movie theater, Walmart. The jobs that you go in at minimum wage. You work that. The best way to do it was you worked for 6 months to a year at that job. You showed future employers that you're willing to put that time and energy in. Best time to start those jobs is when you're about 16 years old, because you're still living at home and you can save that money. You can spend that money without having to worry about bills. You can do these things, and you can build up that experience so that when you're 18, and if you decide not to go to college or trade school or just continue in with the job market, you've got experience. This is one of the reasons why I've encouraged my kids to join the military, because they offer free housing. They offer extended training. They offer full benefits of insurance. That's expensive, guys. The point is this. We had the same options that you guys do now. Now you guys have a lot more help and options, and you have media platform to bitch about. Entry-level jobs are to get your foot wet in the job market. It is to help you determine, do you want to stay in this, basic menial labor, or do you want to go specialized? There is nothing wrong. This world is run by people who are willing to be the cashiers, who are willing to do those jobs. But you know what? If you were at a job for 6 months, chances are you're going to get a pay increase if you do that job well. If you are willing to put in overtime, that's overtime hours. That's increase. If you are willing to go above and beyond, you can increase how much you're getting paid. If you cannot afford where you're living, that is a choice. You've decided to live there. So again, all these people out there were like, oh, when you guys were my age, you could do. No, we couldn't, guys. And this is the point that I want to get through to you guys. The reason that I, myself, have managed to live where I've lived and own homes, not rent, but own homes, is because I chose where I lived where it was affordable for my husband's and my income. We lived on a one income because I was a stay-at-home mom. But in order to do that, we had to choose where we could afford it. You can't just decide, I'm going to be a cashier at a store for the rest of my life, but I'm going to live in Manhattan. It doesn't work that way, guys. You can't afford that. That is not the way the world works. And anybody who told you it does was lying. Yes, back in maybe right after World War II, when the country was trying to bounce back, there was programs set up so that, yeah, you could go buy a house. A lot of shit was going on then, though, guys. So you got to look about what was going on in the world, what was the average lifespan back then, what was put in. Because again, depending on what job you had, how much work you had to put into that job, determined how much you got paid. Now, I'm sorry, if you're only putting in the bare minimum on a job, you're not going to get a pay raise. You're not going to get chosen for those extra hours. You're not going to get chosen to, sorry, bumpy road, have the extended thing. Nobody's going to choose you for management. And this is one of those things that I learned as a teenager. As a teenager working at McDonald's, I was never going to make enough money to afford bills. I even knew that because my mom insisted on teaching us how the real world worked. I had a friend who happened to be 18 already, but still a student in high school, and he got a management position at McDonald's, even though he was still a student. He made decent money. As a manager, he made enough to afford a separate living, his own place. So yeah, management positions give you a better, opening. So again, even places like McDonald's, you can make a career out of if you put in the time, energy, and the commitment. I know it's a terrible word, commitment. So again, we can all bad talk any generation. Every generation is going to have some awesomeness and some crappiness. My generation, your generation, the next generation, there's good and bad. Anybody who tells you that their whole generation, oh, it was so great. When I was a kid, everything was wonderful. They're full of shit. Okay? They're full of shit. If I get censored for this, I apologize. I don't care. The truth of the matter is that there is no utopia out there. There is no wonderful, perfect place. There is no perfect childhood. The people who say that they had the perfect childhood have not been prepared for adulthood. The people out there who say, oh, I ran feral and wild. That's great and all. But they had some other shit going on too. Okay, it wasn't all perfect. It wasn't all struggles. There is good and bad in everything, guys. So again, For those out there who are struggling, I am sorry you are struggling. That is part of the world we live in. It sucks. But this is another example of prioritize. And just as I've told my kids, you got to pick and choose. Do you want to live in a city or a small town? Do you want a career or a job? Do you want to go to college, trade school? There are a lot of things that it's one or two choices. A lot of times there will be extra choices, but there are choices. You pick those choices. Now, if you are struggling because you can't live in a place on your own, that's why we have roommates. This is your chance to see if you can have those friendships, if you can have those roommates. If you can't, find a place that you can afford. Or get a second job so you can afford your place. It sucks, but that's the way the world is working right now. I'm sorry, I can't fix it. It's just the way it is. And any of you who have better advice than I'm giving, please feel free to comment. I ask only that comments be respectfully given, and if you can't give them respectfully, keep them to yourself. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that. Please check out our other videos already on YouTube. And give us a like and subscribe. And if you hit that bell for notifications, you'll know when we put something new out. So try to make every day matter by finding the fun. You guys have a great one. Bye.